Okay, so thanks everyone for being on the call today. This is just a time for us to talk a little bit about what functional assessment service teams are, what the program does, who can be involved in becoming a FAST member, what we're doing in Pennsylvania, and how you can get involved. So I appreciate your time for being on the call today. Laura, did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Laura Sueda. Right now, the reason I'm introducing myself is I have been working along with Christine on developing the FAST for Pennsylvania. I am a Disability Integration Specialist at Abilities in Motion, which is a Center for Independent Living located in Reading, Pennsylvania, and I am also a member of the Red Cross Disability Integration Team.
Thanks, Laura. I just wanted you all to hear her voice. Laura's going to be assisting with FAST program development and training delivery. So thanks, Laura, for saying hello. And again, my name is Christine Heiser. I'm with the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services. I'm an agency representative within the Division of Emergency Planning and Safety Operations. And one of my job functions is to work on disability integration for emergency planning, response, and recovery. So let's dive in here. So I'll start you out with some boring, dry disability statistics. So in the United States, there are over 61 million people who report having some kind of disability. So that's over a quarter of the total population. If you look at this chart here, you can see that's including hearing, vision, cognition, mobility, self-care, independent living disabilities. Obviously, there are other types of needs out there, but just disability alone, it's a huge percentage of the population. So it's not just people with disabilities who might need a little extra assistance during a disaster situation. There are other folks who might have access and functional needs that could require them to need some extra assistance. People with disabilities are included in that access and functional needs category. So it's a much larger number than even that 61 million people in the United States who might be considered having an access and functional need. I have a little bit of background noise. If you could hit mute on your phone, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Christine, are you sharing your screen? We still see just the cover page.
Oh, no. Okay. Let me.
There we go. Thank you.
No, apparently you can't send that to the bottom. Sorry about that. Thank you for letting me know. So here's what you missed. Disability stats and just a visual representation that people with access and functional needs includes those with disabilities and many others. So what do we mean when we say access and functional needs? So access and functional needs includes various disability groups, physical, sensory, developmental, cognitive, behavioral health, or intellectual disabilities included. Also could be chronic conditions or injuries. Folks that require durable medical equipment or assistive technology to maintain their quality of life. Might be folks with substance abuse concerns. Could be children, elderly individuals, or pregnant women. Also could include individuals with limited English proficiency or those who are low income or homeless. And just a note that this is not an exhaustive list. Whoops. This is not an exhaustive list. So access and functional needs could be something else, anything that's requiring just a little extra assistance. So just bear that in mind. That's who we're talking about with access to functional needs groups. So as far as lessons learned from Hurricane Katrina, they found that 38% of people did not evacuate because they had a disability or were caring for individuals with disabilities. So that really is telling that people with disabilities or their caregivers really feel like they're forgotten during disaster response. The fact that they wouldn't want to evacuate or were not able to evacuate. Oops, sorry, my slides keep jumping around on me here. So after Hurricane Katrina, FEMA developed this whole community concept for disaster planning. And what that means is that the needs of the entire community, that includes the whole community, the individual needs of the community members, regardless of age, economics, or accessibility requirements, must be accounted for when planning and implementing disaster strategies. So something that FEMA did in order to work on that whole community concept was develop the concept of functional needs support services. And this, they have a whole document out there. If you Google for it, you'll find it, the Functional Needs Support Services in General Population Shelters. This came out back in 2010. I do believe they are revising it at current moment, but if you need a little light reading, that 166-page PDF will pop up for you. But anyway, these types of functional needs support services enable folks to maintain their health, safety, and independence in disaster shelters when we're providing reasonable modifications to policies, practices, and procedures, when we're providing appropriate durable medical equipment, consumable medical supplies, personal assistance services, and other goods and services as they're needed. So where does FAST fit into this? So California had some devastating wildfires back in 2003, and I know there have been many, many more wildfires there since 2003, most notably the fires in Paradise and other surrounding communities last year. But so back in 2003, they realized that there were some challenges with regard to providing accessible sheltering during the fires. So the California Department of Social Services and the California Office of Emergency Services developed the FAST concept to make those general population shelters accessible to everyone. So what is FAST? FAST is a functional assessment service team. FAST is a team of 2 to 5 personnel, people who have experience working with individuals with disabilities or others with access and functional needs. Those personnel are trained and ready to respond to disaster service areas, and we'll talk more about where FAST responds. FAST conducts functional assessments of disaster survivors and helps them navigate the process of getting the essential resources that they need in order to maintain their health, safety, and independence. So FAST does not necessarily provide direct service. So if FAST assesses an individual and they find this person needs assistance with feeding, bathing, dressing, they would work through the resource request process to get a personal assistant at a shelter to assist that individual. Or perhaps the FAST member might be working at a disaster recovery center, and they determine that there's need for communication devices to assist those who are hard of hearing at the disaster recovery center. They might work on how to acquire those assistive technology items. So they facilitate the acquisition of the resources. They don't necessarily provide the direct service themselves. The mission of FAST is to, again, help people maintain their health, safety, and independence. This makes disaster services inclusive for all individuals. And in doing that, we strengthen the community's disaster resiliency and their ability to come back after a disaster. So how does FAST help? FAST supports general population shelter staff and other disaster responders. Doesn't have to be at a disaster shelter. Again, we'll talk a little more about that. FAST preserves vital medical resources, so it frees up medical responders or other emergency responders to do whatever it is that their job is without having to troubleshoot some of these accommodation issues. So, for example, in your standard Red Cross shelter, you usually have disaster mental health folks working there and disaster health services people working there. It's great for, those staff are usually really, really busy. They have a lot of demands on their time. So if FAST is present at the shelter and helping by assessing disaster survivors, finding out what they need, and assisting them with those needs, they can free up some of the time of some of the other staff. So it's great for those, say, disaster health services nurses to be able to spend their time doing their medical stuff instead of figuring out how to get a replacement hearing aid battery or how to get an ASL interpreter. So FAST is really kind of a force multiplier to free up those emergency resources. FAST can also help with inappropriate institutionalization. I don't know that there's really any good data on this, but after many disasters, it's quite common for folks who have been living at home independently or with some supports in their communities to say they had to evacuate to a shelter, for example. And their needs were not able to be met there because the correct accommodations were not provided. So then those individuals end up getting inappropriately institutionalized, sent to a hospital, when really all they needed was a simple accommodation there at the shelter. So it can be really costly, and why tie up a hospital resource when you could provide an accommodation and allow the person to stay within their community, stay with their neighbors, their family, their friends, and just receive the accommodation that they need. So FAST assesses people, finds those with accommodation needs, and just assists them to get what they need in order to maintain that health, safety, and independence. I just want to tell you a couple stories from a recent response. So I don't know, is Janine on the phone? Give Janine a shout out if she's on the phone. Not this time. Anyway, so in these photos, this is my partner Janine. The two of us responded to North Carolina following Hurricane Florence as a two-person FAST. So Janine promises that she's going to take more photos next time so she doesn't have to be the star of every PowerPoint. But so that's why you'll see her in some of my photos in this presentation. But I just wanted to tell a couple quick stories from our Florence response about what we did at FAST, just to give you an idea. So the photo on the left, that's Janine and an emotional support cat. So we were at a shelter in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and we were helping as a liaison to mediate a couple of service animal issues. And one of those issues was related to this woman who had some mental health diagnoses. I think she had PTSD, and I'm not sure what else she had going on. But anyway, she had this emotional support cat, and she really needed to have the cat with her in order to kind of maintain calm when she's in this chaotic shelter environment. So there was an issue with allowing the cat, and the facility didn't want to allow the cat in. So at FAST, we were able to take the time to mediate that with the shelter management, with the facility, in order for them to allow the cat inside. So I snapped this photo. Janine was able to develop a relationship with this shelter resident insofar as the woman actually trusted her to watch the cat while she went to shower. So that was when I snapped this photo. So to be able to have the opportunity to develop the trust of a disaster survivor and to assist them so that they can, she was able to have the emotional support animal was really invaluable to making this really, the stay in the shelter, really possible for this woman. The photo on the right, that's Janine assisting someone else that we were working with. This gentleman was profoundly deaf, had very limited vision. So that's him typing away at a TTY. The TTY was there on site when we arrived. They had a partnership with the Division of Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, and they were able to provide that for this gentleman, and he was using that to communicate with folks outside the shelter, but it was difficult for him to communicate with people inside the shelter. He kept wanting you to look over his shoulder and read what he was typing as it scrolled across the screen. So it was kind of challenging. Obviously, it was tethered to the wall because it had to be plugged in. So as we worked with him to try and figure out what could we do to help with this communication need, we had brought an accessibility kit with us. You can see there's a little whiteboard on the table there, just a little dollar store whiteboard and marker. So we were able to grab that, and if you printed on that in large block letters, this gentleman could read that and respond in kind. So we gave him that little whiteboard, and I tell you, 3 days later, he was still carrying that whiteboard around everywhere he went. So you could tell it was a useful tool for him. He was using that in order to communicate from everything as mundane as what's for dinner tonight to the important things like when is the bus leaving to go back to my home county. So FAST being there we were able to help facilitate that communication. We provided kind of a warm handoff to this individual, letting other staff know these are what his needs are, and it really just made it a more welcoming environment for that particular shelter resident. So I just wanted to share this couple stories of real-life things that FAST does to help. So where does FAST help? So FAST can help at any disaster service area. The most common one, and the reason that FAST was developed, as I mentioned when I talked about the history, was to help out in shelters. But we can think beyond shelters. There are other areas where people go to get help following a disaster where FAST might be of service. That could be a point of dispensing where people will go to get medication or other services in the event of a public health disaster. It could be a point of distribution, which is somewhere that people might go to get bottled water, food, other commodities during a disaster. It could be a multi-agency resource center or a disaster recovery center. That's like a one-stop shop where people go to get services all in one place. That's where you go and you can get your replacement driver's license and apply for FEMA benefits and all that stuff all in one place. It could be a family reunification center. A lot of times these are set up following large-scale disasters. It could be natural disaster or human-caused disaster to help folks reunite with family and friends. FAST could help during large-scale evacuation. I just heard an idea from another partner recently to send FAST out on buses that are going around to evacuate folks. FAST can then, a lot of times paratransit, I believe they have regulations. They're not always allowed to enter individuals' homes. So if FAST could enter an individual's home if necessary, help them gather their things, make the evacuation a little easier for them, that's a situation where FAST might be of service. Community reception centers are generally points where folks gather during an evacuation. FAST might be useful there. Perhaps FAST could deploy to local emergency operations centers and help troubleshoot some issues from the emergency management level. Could be used during welfare checks. And really the possibilities are endless. So, the important thing I think to realize is that FAST will only respond to the site of a disaster or emergency when and where the team is requested. FAST will never self-deploy. That's for safety accountability reasons, and also because there's a chain of command to follow as far as emergency management goes. So we respect that. It's not like FAST is just going to show up and do our own thing freelancing. So just wanted to make that clear. FAST member duties. So FAST coordinates and collaborates with the emergency response staff, whether that's shelter staff or other folks at the disaster service area. FAST will conduct assessments of those disaster survivors, request any resources they need, and track those resources so that they can make sure that the people who need the resources receive them. FAST will maintain those contacts and service notes about those contacts and provide any technical assistance that the emergency response workers might need. So FAST might say troubleshoot, maybe there's a need for a ramp or some sort of physical accessibility need. That's something that FAST might do as well. FAST member qualifications. What are the qualifications? So we ask that FAST members have 2 or more years of experience working with individuals with disabilities or others with access and functional needs. I have a list here, as I mentioned earlier, just some examples of some types of experience that FAST members might have working with. Other qualifications, preferable if you have some knowledge of disability and access and functional needs community, including available resources, support services, things of that nature. Interpersonal skills in order to communicate effectively. That means orally and in writing, and also to interact effectively with a variety of staff, volunteers, and community members. This is so, so important. If you don't like talking to people, or you're afraid to talk to people that you've never met, or you don't like being an advocate or working with people, this is not going to be the job for you. So those interpersonal skills communication skills are really important. FAST really is the ultimate liaison when we're out in the field. You'll have to talk to disaster survivors, you'll have to talk to emergency response workers, all kinds of different community members during a disaster. This could be during a difficult or stressful situation, possibly in austere conditions. Austere conditions, just to give you an example, Janine and I, when we responded in North Carolina, we were staying in a staff shelter that was set up inside an old Kmart. So, you know, it may not be fun, it may not be the most comfortable, but sometimes hotels are not available or hot food is not available and you're eating shelf-stable food or heater meals, that kind of thing. So conditions could possibly be austere. So these are, you know, the kind of things to keep in mind. You know, you have to be willing to operate in those kinds of conditions possibly in order to be there to be of service. FAST members also have to have the ability to travel as required, and that could be, if you're only available to deploy kind of locally, that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying that you need to deploy to North Carolina or that if you live in Philadelphia, you need to be able to deploy to Pittsburgh. It's fine if you only want to work within your county or surrounding counties. And also availability for quick deployment. If a FAST member requires accommodations to perform the essential functions, we will provide those accommodations for you. And that's something we'll talk about as you go through FAST training, and so we can kind of pre-plan what might be needed in order to enable you to perform those essential functions. We understand that FAST members are not going to be available all the time. Nobody is. Everyone has personal work or other circumstances that may prevent them from deploying. So it's not necessary for you to be on call or necessarily for you to be available for every single deployment. So, you know, just bear in mind, you know, if you think you want to be a FAST member but you're never willing to deploy, you know, maybe rethink that. So what is the training like? The FAST training is going to be a one-day training. We, at our offering coming up next month in Norristown, the day prior to the FAST training, we are offering Red Cross Shelter Fundamentals and our Access and Functional Needs Awareness course. So the Red Cross Shelter Fundamentals course is going to be taught by Red Cross staff. That will teach you the basics of how shelters are set up, how they operate, all that kind of stuff. So you have that context in order to be able to operate within a shelter more easily. The Access and Functional Needs Awareness course, this is meant, so say you have 10 years of experience working with the deaf community, but you've never worked with folks with any other kind of disability. The Access and Functional Needs Awareness course will give you a broad overview of a whole bunch of different disabilities. So it might just give you a little more background. Ideally, when we put together a FAST team, we might have someone who has experience from different disability areas. We put them all on the same team so they can work together. But if you don't know what you don't know, that makes it a little more challenging. So we offer the Access and Functional Needs Awareness course to help compensate for that, recognizing that people may only have experience in a specific area. We're also going to encourage folks to complete some online trainings, some of the FEMA independent study courses related to incident command systems. So to be determined which ones exactly will be required, but those are self-paced and can be done online for free at any time. So more to come on that. And then we'll be working on our ongoing training and exercise program. So what's going on for FAST in Pennsylvania? I mentioned that Janine and I were a two-person FAST team supporting North Carolina following Florence, and now we're working on how we're going to implement the FAST program on a broader scale. So we are currently recruiting and training new members and developing a deployment process for FAST, both at the state and the local level. I'll be developing that ongoing training and exercise program. Skills like this, if you don't use them, you lose them. So we want to engage folks so that they can keep their skills fresh. So when you are need to deploy, you know, you have those skill sets at the ready. We're going to be integrating the program into county and Commonwealth standard operating guidelines, policies, and procedures. And we're also going to be identifying local level administrators. So Pennsylvania has regional counterterrorism task forces. So my initial thought was that we were going to align FAST with those regional counterterrorism task forces. So our first training is in Montgomery County in the southeast. And the model may look different depending on the regional task force. So it might be that county-based teams are the way to go in the southeast, but not in the south central area. So it's going to depend on the area. So we're working our way west. So we have that Montgomery County training next month, and then we'll have other trainings as we move west here. So again, coming up next month, July 18th and 19th, is FAST training in Norristown, PA, and Montgomery County. Again, that first day we're doing, again, Red Cross Shelter Fundamentals in the morning, and then Access and Functional Needs Awareness in the afternoon. Attendance is strongly recommended that first day, but not strictly required, or if you already have Red Cross Shelter Fundamentals, you don't need to attend again, of course. And then the meat of the training will be the FAST training on July the 19th from 8 to 4. We're anticipating a Harrisburg and Selinsgrove offering in fall 2019 with the Western PA offering probably in Butler or Allegheny County in early 2020. So to be determined, as soon as I have those dates set and registration open, I'll be sure to get that out. So please do share the FAST brochure and the training flyer with your networks. I have limited space available in the Norristown training, but we will have those other offerings, so fear not. And we will continue to work with partners throughout the state to hold FAST training as we can where there's demand, and so we will be recruiting more staff regionally. So that is all I have. Let me bring up the chat here, see if anybody types any questions to me. Does not appear so. Does anyone have any questions? Please speak up.
Hi, my name is Karen Koch, and I'm employed with the Center for Independent Living of North Central Pennsylvania. I'm calling in from Williamsport. How long is there a specific time frame for the certification? Like if I participated in the Norristown training, do you ever expire? I heard you say about you need to use the skills to maintain them. So is there an expiration for having the training, for getting the certification?
Thanks for the question, Karen. There is no expiration, but I'm thinking once we further develop the ongoing training and exercise program, that we might require that FAST members, in order to stay on the roster, participate in one training and one exercise a year. Okay. And the trainings might be, maybe we have a quarterly webinar or a quarterly meeting, and we might bring in, a subject matter expert in autism and learn a little bit more, do a deep dive in a specific disability subject matter expert.
Okay. And I called in a few minutes late. I'm guessing that you are Christine?
I am. Nice to meet you, Karen.
Okay. Thank you very much for the explanation, Christine.
Sure thing. Other questions? Come on, my explanation wasn't that good. I'm sure somebody else has a question. All right, well, I will leave my contact information up here. Please do shoot me an email or give me a call if anything comes to mind the second you hang up your phone. I'm sure it will. So please let me know what further information I can provide and what other partners we can loop in to continue to move this program forward. I hope I'll see some of you at training next month and at the future training offerings, and we'll just continue to build the program and move on from here. So thank you so much for being on the call here today. I'll hang out on the line if anyone wants to pipe up with another question. And other than that, I will see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Christine?
Yes.
I'm from Delaware. Do you do anything with Delaware, or is it just primarily just for Pennsylvania?
Who is this?
This is Gail Hamblin.
So I have a couple folks who will be attending from Delaware State because they're also working on developing FAST.
Okay.
So, who do you work for, Gail?
I work for the University of Delaware, but I'm in Kent County. I'm a new assistive technology specialist.
Oh, cool. Are you in contact with Beth McDonald?
Yes.
Yes, she is attending, and I think she had 2 coworkers who were going to attend. So
Okay.
I would reach out to her and see how she's going to proceed, because we do just have limited space, especially if this Norristown training that's coming up. So I would see what her plan is moving forward.
Okay. So, but you do work together.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yep.
Okay.
Beth has a stakeholder group. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
I was just curious if, if we had something comparable and, if you all work together with us, or because we're such a small state.
Yeah, it's funny. Beth has a disability stakeholder group that she brings together for emergency response stuff, and I have a similar group in Pennsylvania, and I'm not sure how Beth and I ended up getting connected, but we realized that we do a lot of the same stuff, so it's nice that we get a chance to collaborate. So.
Okay, well, it was very informative. Thank you for having us.
Good. Good. Hopefully we'll chat more soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.